Many of those who believe DOGE has made Elon Musk a brand liability for Tesla say that he can't go because the share price will tank. And they're probably right. But I suggest there's an even bigger reason than DOGE why Elon must stop being the CEO of Tesla, the car company, and that there is a strategy allowing him to exit that can protect the share price. Welcome to a One Finite Planet EV video on Tesla, the real reason why and how Elon Musk must go. My take on the main real reason Elon must go is that he's lost the passion for Tesla as a car company. Yes, a lot of people are angry about Musk's role in the Trump administration, and I completely understand that. I'm not agreeing with people damaging property, but it's people's right to boycott the brand if they wish. Certainly, the polarisation resulting from Musk's alignment with Trump provides a reason for Musk exiting Tesla, but I argue that Elon Musk has lost his passion for the vision of Tesla enabling consumers to own electric cars. My suggestion is a restructure, similar to how Google restructured to become Alphabet, with a new parent becoming something starting with X, with Tesla the car company under that parent, and having its own CEO who does still hold a passion for privately owned cars. Car company or not? I recall a conversation with a Tesla enthusiast just a few months ago, when he at first thought I was crazy to suggest Tesla was no longer a car company. Then he saw Elon Musk had several times said people should no longer see Tesla as a car company, but as a technology, AI, and robotics company. Despite this stance by Elon, which may be needed for investors, I suspect many Tesla buyers, like that enthusiast did, consider they're buying a car from a car company. But Elon Musk is a person of passion, and how he sees Tesla reflects where his passions lie. It's not just about Tesla being a car company, but Elon's passion for the future role of cars. Elon has made several statements, such as those seen on screen, and with more linked below, to the effect that cybercab will result in much lower levels of vehicle ownership, even suggesting each cybercab could replace 10 to 20 private vehicles. And whether you see people using cybercab instead of owning their own vehicles as a desirable goal or not, comes in stark contrast to the previous Tesla goal of selling 20 million private vehicles per year, given that target meant reaching around 25% of global vehicle sales, which are at 80 million. While I don't agree cars are currently seen by their owners as just a necessary evil, some do see it that way and would argue far less cars being sold is a noble goal. But regardless of how you feel about car ownership, I can't see the goal of 10 to 20 times less cars for consumers being consistent with being CEO of a car maker selling vehicles to consumers for private ownership, and at one time targeting to have dominant market share. Note that while the goal is for there to be less cars, it's not less trips by car, just travelling in a robotaxi instead of your own car. In fact, it's also suggested that trips by public transport will be replaced with trips by robotaxi, which would mean more total trips by car. More trips would be door to door, meaning replacing even some walking with driving. And since the car won't remain stopped until you need it next, there'll be extra trips to, for example, move from your home after dropping you off to the next person's home to pick them up. Plus, since transport tends to have peak periods of many people travelling in a similar direction, just as many buses return mostly empty to pick up more passengers during peak hour, a percentage of robotaxi trips would be to shuffle robotaxis back to the start of the currently in demand travel direction. There would be a saving in the number of cars, and that could, in theory, reduce the environmental impact of manufacturing. Or maybe not. If vehicles last for a given distance driven, rather than just a fixed time regardless of how often they're driven, then robotaxis would wear out much faster. So just as many must be produced. In fact, with more distance travelled in total, there are many reasons why an even higher rate of vehicle production could be needed, which would be great for robotaxi sales if they do take over, but problematic for it making enough sense to actually happen. It seems likely that robotaxis would be nowhere near as environmentally beneficial as finding a way to make vehicles updatable and last longer, as happens with houses, which would reduce manufacturing. People all funding a fleet of robotaxis could, however, appeal to big government and big business, given it would make people's lives even more reliant on commercial infrastructure and prevent people owning home solar and using cars with V2G to reduce power costs. And there's even a threat that privately owned EVs could disrupt power companies being able to control electricity supply. Will a robotaxi world be good for consumers? Of course, having the option of using a robotaxi when you want has to be a good thing. But I question the Musk vision, where robotaxis are a bigger business than car sales, which seems to require a world where most people choose to always use robotaxis and thus don't need to own a car. There are several reasons robotaxis, as replacement for private car ownership, may actually cost individuals more than car ownership, and has to cost individuals more if moving from selling cars to people to selling them robotaxis is going to result in an increase in revenue for Tesla. Unless the robotaxis discourage trips by car or last for a longer distance travelled than privately owned vehicles, given the extra distances to be driven, consumers would be paying for at least the same number of cars to be produced, if not more. Yes, it could be a bigger business than selling people the cars, which is great for investors, but negative for the rest of us. The public would likely be funding more vehicles than before, plus funding companies to operate the service. Only then, they won't get to choose their own vehicle or personalise the vehicle. I guess one saving would be the robotaxis you get to use may be more basic than a vehicle you choose for yourself. Currently, people want more from cars than them being taxis, which may be why in the USA, home of Tesla, 1 in 5 people buy a pickup. This suggests people don't really want to just get from A to B, but also bring stuff with them, some of which remains in the vehicle between trips. Cars are not just transport from A to B, but private personal space in the same manner of a house is personal space. A car is like the part of your home you can bring with you and its contents with you at the same time. This robotaxi world where people don't still own cars, rather than a world that also has robotaxis, I see as somewhat dystopian and part of a slope towards reducing people's living space, as explored in the Economy is Like an Egg Farm video. A world where there are robotaxis in addition to private cars, that's desirable. But if people still own private cars, then private cars is the bigger business. None of this proves Elon Musk is wrong or that the company should stop pursuing robotaxi market. The argument here is that it's not certain robotaxis will be a market opportunity as great as the market for privately owned cars. And the product of privately owned cars still also deserves an enthusiastic champion. And that's no longer Elon Musk. The idea here is for a parent company to be created and Tesla cars to become a division, in a similar manner to Google becoming a division within Alphabet and Facebook becoming a division within Meta. Since Elon is the lead, probably something with an X. Xpeng's already established, X-Tech's unimaginative and probably too close. Maybe Expanse to give it the sci-fi connection and to suggest the future of humanity lies beyond the Earth. I suggest divisions as on screen. Car production and sales, Cybercab, robots, solar and energy storage, and an AI division, well, that sort of competes with something Elon has already. First, vehicle production and sales. Call this Tesla in a similar way to what happened with Google. Plus, the name came before Elon joined anyway. Okay, this should include trucks, both those used as personal transport, which I tend to call cars, and those purchases by business to carry goods that they don't own, but not the owning and operating of vehicles by Tesla. This would require a CEO passionate about cars people own. Second, Cybercab or Tesla Network, operating Tesla's own Uber-like operations. Seen by many investors as playing a huge role in Tesla stock value, you can't just drop the activity without a huge fall in share prices. Third, Tesla robots. Optimus? While I'm not personally convinced that either Tesla will dominate the robot industry, or even that that industry will have the currently projected upside because either A, it fails to change much, or B, it changes everything, including the basis for capitalism. Fourth, solar energy and storage. Seems, particularly the solar side, to be a bit neglected lately, but I feel it should remain. Now, a bit of a disclaimer. While I try to avoid confirmation bias, it could be that Elon Musk and I are each applying confirmation bias in opposite directions. Elon panics that population growth is pausing and appears to believe human population should return to the atypical 20th century population explosion growth pattern and prepare Mars to handle any overflow. While I applaud Elon's goals to get beyond being earthbound and share the belief it's necessary for the future of humanity, I'm wary of his timeframe estimates, and as discussed in the population video, I think current population trends are healthy as things stand. I believe in a future with cars, not one where we are moving, to use the egg farm metaphor, from free range to battery hens so that we won't have enough space per person for cars. I also think Tesla cars matter, and that while China may have played a role in getting Tesla this far, the world still needs Tesla as a car company, if for no other reason than that they can help stop China completely taking over the entire car industry.